Good day everyone, I am Narhana Abdul and this is the Group 2 presentation about psychological perspective and Western and Eastern concept of the self. Let's start the discussion about psychological perspective. Since we're talking about psychological perspective, we have to define the psychology first. So what is psychology? Psychology comes from the Greek word psyche, means mind, and logos means knowledge or study. It's the study of mind and behavior. It encompasses the biological influence, social pressures, and environment factors that affect how people think, act, and feel. It means that psychology is the study of mental or brain process and also deal with the human behavior, like how human behavior grow and change their behavior in their lives. And also, psychologists study the behavior of both human and animals in order to understand and improve the quality of human lives. Sigmund Freud, father of psychoanalytics, born in May 6, 1856 and died in September 23, 1939. Sigmund Freud, the person whose genius created psychoanalysis. He was an Austrian neurologist and psychiatrist who co-founder of the psychoanalytics school of psychology. As a psychiatrist, he initially used hypnosis as his primary form of treatment, and he also known for his theories of unconscious mind and redefinition of sexual desire. Psychoanalytic theory, also known psychoanalysis, the theory encompasses the idea that all people have unconscious thoughts, memories, emotions, and desires, and that therapy should be used to access the mind's repressed feelings and experiences. Sigmund Freud, construction of self and personality. 3. Construction of personality. First, id. It is the only component of personality that is present from birth. Id is also pleasure-seeking, immature, impulsive, childlike, and cannot delay gratification. Id, he doesn't think about whether it is wrong or right, as long as he wants what he wants. It is like a childlike, because everything he wants, he will get immediately. Next is ego. It's the personality component responsible for dealing with reality. Ego is based on reality, with mean or he think first about whether it is right or wrong, or there's a little bit of planning or undecided. The ego functions in the conscious, preconscious, and unconscious mind. The last one is superego. Superego, the conscience and moral judge of conduct, sometimes refers to as the voice of God. It is strives for perfections. Superego, he is the moral principle, or he is the one who say right or wrong. This is the example of id, ego, and superego. Id say, I want it now. Gusto niya agad-agad makuha niya. Superego say, you can have it. It's not right. Or siya yung nagsasabi na hindi yan dapat or bawal yan. Ego said, I need to do a bit of planning to get it. Or he don't have right decision or undecided. Next is psychosexual stage. First is oral stage, birth to 1 year erogenous zone or focus on mouth. Next is anal stage, 1 to 3 years old erogenous zone, bowel and bladder control. This stage, all parents teach her child to walk and talk. Third is phallic stage, 3 to 6 years old erogenous zone, genitals. This stage of the child is curious about her body parts and everything on her side. Latent stage, 6 to puberty, libido inactive. This is the stage of the child, he want to go to school or he want to play or everything. The last stage, genital stage, puberty to date, maturity, sexual interest. Next psychologist is William James. William James, born in January 11, 1842, at Astor House in New York, died in August 26, 1910. He was an American psychologist and philosopher, and he theorized the component of the self, which he divided into two categories, me and I. William James' concept of the self. He is a father of American psychology. In 1890, he distinguished to understanding of self, the self as me and the self as I. Me, the self-concept, knowledge, and thoughts relate to who you and think you are. Next is I, the reserve, the part of the self that allows you to be consciously aware of who you are. Self as me and the self as I. So what is the difference of I self and me self? I self is refers to the self that know who he or who she is. I self is talk about who you are. The I self is the part of the self that knows who they are. And everything on your mind is I self. What you think, act, and feeling on yourself. That's I self. And me self, the empirical self, or the experience of the self. The me self is a separated individual. A person refers to when talking about their personal experiences. It is divided into subcategories. First, material self, social self, and spiritual self. Material self consists of what belongs to a person, such as the body, family, clothes, or money. The material self, all of the physical elements that reflect who you are. For example, your clothes reflect on your personality. Social self is how you interact with your family member, friends, classmates, co-workers, and all of these moments, and how we feel about ourselves during them, and how we perceive ourselves in a relation to others. Last is spiritual self, is who we are and our core, including our personality, value, and conscience. Example, regular act of compassion. Your spiritual self is you in your most beautiful and powerful form. It is the authentic self of the unconditioned part of yourself. The next psychologist is Donald Winnicott. Donald Winnicott, born in April 7, 1896 at Plymouth, Devon, England. He died on January 25, 1971 at London, England. He was an English pediatrician and psychoanalyst who was especially influential in the field of object relation theory and developmental psychology. He was a leading member of the British Independent Group of the British Psychoanalytical Society, President of the British Psychoanalytical Society twice, in 1956 to 1959 and 1965 to 1968. Winnicott is best known for his ideas of the true self and false self. He was a leading member of the British Independent Group of the British Psychoanalytical Society, President of the British Psychoanalytical Society twice, in 1956 to 1959 and 1965 to 1968. Winnicott is best known for his ideas of the true self and false self. True Self versus False Self by Donald Winnicott. Donald Winnicott was an English pediatrician and psychoanalyst. He was especially influential in the field of object relation theory, and development psychology. Winnicott suggests that the self is composed of the true self and false self. According to him, the function of false self is to hide and protect the true self. True self, a sense of self based on authentic experience and the feeling of being truly present. Also known as real self, authentic self, original self, and vulnerable self. False self is a contrast denotes a sense of self created as a defensive which in extreme cases can believe an individual lacking, feeling dead and empty. False self, also known fake self, ideal self, superficial self. True self and false self. According to Winnicott, false self is protect the true self. So why false self protect true self? That because you don't show your true self or your real self. For example, there's times why we pretend to be happy when we have problem in our life. Why are we trying to hide the true self? Because they have some reason why we hide the true feeling or true self. Another example, when you say you're okay, but you're really not. That's why Winnicott say false self is protect true self. That's all my part of my assigned topic. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Our topic is about David Lester multiple versus unified selves and Carl Rogers self theory. So, let's discuss first about David Lester multiple versus unified self. David Lester. David Lester is a British American psychologist, suicidologist, and emeritus professor of Stockton University. He said that the importance of understanding the self is how actually understand the concept of multiple versus unified self. Multiple versus unified selves. The constructions of multiple selves varies across different courses and relationships. So, katulad din ito sa iba't ibang teorya na kumakatawan sa iba't ibang sitwasyon. The multiple or unified selves explain us that we have our multiple side of ourself. What do we mean multiple selves? Multiple selves or multiple personas refers to the different ways that individuals interact with the different situations and circumstances in their lives. For example, as an employee or as a friend, you have a different presentations and personality, but it depends of what role you are in. So, multiple selves is basically your different identity. Pero nakadepende kung paano mo ito ina-apply sa magkakaibang sitwasyon at kung sino ang nakakasama mo or nakakasalamuha mo. So, since you have a multiple selves, you need to unify them all. Coping with different selves constitutes a formidable task among adolescents. So, this challenge contributes heavily to the young person's struggle unified self. The next is, what does the self consist of? So, according to Lester, the human self consists of three related and separate domains. So, what are the three domains? The first is experiential self. This is the theater of consciousness and the first person felt experience of being. This is tied very closely to memory. The next is private self-consciousness system. So, the portion of your being that verbally narrates what is happening and try to make sense of what is going on. So, this portion of yourself is called the autobiographical self. The last is public self or persona. The public image that you attempt to project others, which in turn to interacts with how people actually see you. So, these are the things that Lester proposed about the multiple versus unified self. The next is Carl Rogers' self theory. Carl Rogers is an American psychologist and is considered one of the founding fathers in psychotherapy research. He proposed the concept of self theory. Who is Carl Rogers? According to Carl Rogers, believed in the inherent of goodness of people. So, according to Carl, he believes that people are naturally kind. So, naniniwala siya na ang tao ay natural na mabait. Emphasizes the importance of free will and psychological growth, and suggests that the actualizing tendency is driving force behind human behavior. Human beings are always striving for self-fulfillment or self-actualization. When the needs of the self are denied, severe anxiety may result. So, ibig sabihin nito, pagka may gusto ka para sa sarili mo na hindi mo nakukuha, nagkakaroon ka ng anxiety, or pag may kailangan kang bilhin na hindi mo nakukuha, nagkaka-anxiety ka. And you propose the self-concept. What is self-concept? Refers to the image oneself. Define the self as a flexible and changing perceptions and personality identity. Self develops from interactions with significant people and self-awareness. So, ito yung tumutukoy sa sarili natin na nagbabago ang pagkakakilanlan natin sa pakikipag-ugnayan natin sa ibang tao na hindi tayo aware or hindi natin namamalayan. And according to Carl Rogers, there are three components of self-concept. So, this is the three components of self-concept. The first is self-image. Self-image refers to how to see yourself at this moment in time. Attributes like physical characteristics, personality traits, and social roles all play a role in your self-image. The second is self-esteem. How much you like, accept, and value yourself all contributes to your self-concept. So self-esteem can be affected by a number of factors, including how others see you, how you think compared to others, and your role in society. The last is ideal self. The ideal self is the person you want to be. This person has the attributes or qualities you are either working towards or want to possess. It's who you envision yourself to be if you were exactly as you wanted. And of course, your ideal self is affected from self-image and self-esteem. At ang sabi ni Carl Rogers, the curious paradox is that when I accept myself just I am, then I can change.
Our topic is all about psychological perspective and Eastern and Western concept of the self. So, my report is all about Albert Bandura and Carl Jung. So, Albert Bandura was a Canadian-American psychologist who has the David Starr Jordan Professor in Psychology at Stanford University. So, everyone, si Albert Bandura is isang Canadian-American psychologist. Ang Bandura ay kinikilala sa buong mundo bilang isa sa pinakamarami sa mundo ng mga maimpluwensyang social psychologists para sa kanyang groundbreaking na pananaliksik sa kahalagahan ng pag-aaral sa pamamagitan ng pagmamasid sa iba. Bandura is internationally recognized as one of the world's most influential social psychologists for his groundbreaking research on the importance of learning by observing others. Social learning theory proposed by Albert Bandura emphasizes the importance of observing, modeling, and imitating the behaviors, attitudes, and emotional reactions of others. So, para sa akin, ang teorya ng kanyang pag-aaral para sa lipunan ay iminumungkahi niya at dahil din dito, binigyan daan ang kahalagahan ng pagmamasid, pagmomodelo at ginagaya ang pag-uugali, ugali at emosyonal na relasyon ng iba. So, Bandura's theory. Bandura believed that a person's level of motivation is an affective state and action are based more on what they believe. Albert Bandura. A theory that denies that thoughts can regulate action does not lead itself readily to the explanation of complex human behavior. Para sa akin, siya ay may isang teorya na itinatanggi na ang mga pag-iisip ay maaaring mag-regulate ng mga aksyon at hindi nagbibigay ng sarili sa paliwanag ng komplikadong pag-uugali ng tao. Ito ay tinatawag na isang social foundation at pag-iisip at pagkilos o isang social cognitive theory. Albert Bandura, the self as proactive and agentic. Bandura believes that through our agency, we humans are perceived as proactive agents of experience. Through these agents or agency, we humans play a big role in our self-development, adaptation, and self-renewal. It is said that the human agency have 4 features. These features are intentionally forethought, self-reactiveness, and self-reflectiveness. The 4 agentic perspective. So, what are the 4 components of human agency according to Bandura? In proposing a psychology, a human agency, Bandura identified 4 core properties and pillar principles that comprise human agency, namely: Number 1. Intentionality. 2. Forethought. 3. Self-reactiveness. 4. Self-reflectiveness. The four-agentic perspective of Albert Bandura. We humans plan things intentionally or we do things intentionally. With doing this, we wait for possible outcomes. We make our plans, actions, and decisions with the basis of our intention in life. We, as humans, are interested in different things. We make ourselves interested in the things we do, therefore, acting with our intentions. Fourth thought, on the other hand, enable us to anticipate the consequences of the things we do. We expect different expectation, therefore, we likely think better before we do or make decisions in the future. Self-reflectiveness give us the ability to reflect on our decision, choices, and consequences. Self-reactiveness involves making choices. We make different choices and we actually make choices after thinking about the consequences. Carl Jung. Carl Gustav Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. Jung's work has been influential in the fields of psychiatry, anthropology, archaeology, literature, philosophy, psychology, and religious studies. So, Carl Jung is recognized as one of the most influential psychiatrists of all time. He founded analytical psychology and was among the first experts in his field to explore the religious natures behind human psychology. Psychology of the unconscious. In psychology of the unconscious, Jung seeks a symbolic meaning and purpose behind a given set of symptoms, placing them within the larger context of the psyche. So, ano ang teorya ng pagkatao ni Carl Jung? Ang teorya ng pagkatao ni Carl Jung, nag-aaral siya ng mga personalidad at pinagsama-sama ang mga tao sa mga introvert at extrovert. Dagdag pa, sinabi niya na ang mga introvert at extrovert ay maaaring tingnan ng mundo sa pamamagitan ng pag-iisip, pakiramdam, sensasyon o intuition. Naniniwala si Jung na ang psyche ng tao ay may tatlong bahagi, ang ego, personal unconscious at collective unconscious. The four major archetypes of Carl Jung. Archetypes are universal, inborn models of people, behaviors, and personalities that play a role in influencing human behavior. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung's theory suggested that these archetypes were archaic forms of innate human knowledge passed down from our ancestors. What are Jung's four major archetypes? Jung claimed to identify a large number of archetypes but paid special attention to four. Jung labeled these archetypes. Number 1. The self. 2. The persona. 3. The shadow. 4. Anima and animus. The self. The self is an archetype that represents the unified unconsciousness and consciousness of an individual. Jung often represented the self as a circle, square, or mandala. Creating the self occurs through a process known as individuation, in which the various aspects of personality are integrated. The persona. The persona in psychology. The personality that an individual projects to others, as differentiated from the authentic self. The shadow. The shadow is an archetype that consists of the sex and life instincts. The shadow exists as part of the unconscious mind and is composed of repressed ideas, weaknesses, desires, instincts, and shortcomings. The shadow forms out of our attempts to adapt to cultural norms and expectations. So the last, the anima and animus are described in Carl Jung's school of analytical psychology as part of his theory of the collective unconscious. And Jung also described the animus as the unconscious masculine side of a woman, and the anima as the unconscious feminine side of a man, each transcending the personal psyche. So, This is the last part of my report, The 12 Archetypes by Carl Jung.
Hello everyone, today I am discussing to you the Western and Eastern thoughts. So Western thoughts. In Western thought, people tend to answer affirmatively and think of the self as an entity separate from others. In Eastern philosophy, though, the self is often treated as an illusion. Hinduism is a major religion common in South Asian countries like India and Sri Lanka. It conducts scientific investigations to understanding the self and develop theories and difference among them. A scientific investigation is a plan for asking questions and testing possible answers. A scientific investigation typically begins with observations. Observations often lead to questions. A hypothesis is a possible logical answer to a scientific question based on scientific knowledge. It emphasizes the importance of scientific methods of investigation to provide satisfactory answers to understanding the self. Scientific methods is important because it's a standardized approach. The steps used in the scientific method are systematic. So scientists conduct experiments in a standardized manner. This means that their experiments can become more widespread. Eastern thoughts. Eastern thoughts philosophy believes that the self composed of each person's personal identity, consciousness, and core philosophies is an illusion. They deny the existence of the independent entity of the self that Westerners posit does exist. So, Eastern philosophy has always had a very similar goal to Western philosophy, that of making us wiser, less agitated, more thoughtful, and readier to appreciate our lives. However, the way it has gone about this has been intriguingly different. So, Eastern thoughts, it raises questions about the ultimate meaning of human life, and they have developed theories of self as they have investigated what it means to be a human being. Its emphasis is relation rather than individual. The self is considered not in illusion but in relation to other, society, and universe. Eastern theories are highly practical. They offer a variety of techniques for cultivating a deeper understanding the self. They do not utilize the scientific techniques of investigation. So, according to Aristotle, happiness is the goal of human existence because this an end in itself. Even through virtue, a person can find happiness. Whatever humans do, they do for happiness as a means to happiness.
So, good afternoon everyone. Sir, good afternoon. I am Ina Nicor Ventura. So, today I will discuss about my part of this group report. So, Buddhism. Siddhartha Gautama, known as Buddha, is the founder of Buddhism. So, who is Siddhartha Gautama, or mas kilala siya bilang si Buddha? Si Siddhartha Gautama, or mas kilala siya bilang Buddha, siya ay isang gurong espiritual mula sa subkontinenteng Indiano na tagapagtatag ng Budismo. Siya rin ay isang prinsipeng ipinanganak sa Lumbini mula sa angkan ng mga Shakya sa isang lugar na matatagpuan sa makabagong Nepal, malapit sa hangganan ng Hilagang India. Tapos ang Buddha pala, ito ay isang nangangahulugang isang nagising o isang naliwanagan. The five parts that compose the individual. First is matter, second sensation, third perception, fourth mental constructs, and five consciousness. Buddhism believes that the human life is one of the suffering and that meditation, spiritual and physical labor in good behavior. So, ang Buddhism or sa Tagalog is Buddhismo, ito ay isang spiritual na tradisyon na nakatuon sa personal na pag-unlad ng spiritual at pagkamit ng isang malalim na pananaw at totoong likas na katangian ng buhay. So, ang halimbawa dito sa Budhismo or ang mas paniniwala nila ay ang naliwanagan at itinalaga ang sarili bilang tagapaglingkod sa kanyang kapwa. Hinduism, variously defined as an Indian religion, a set of religious belief or practice, a religious tradition, a way of life on Dharma. So, dito sa Hinduism, ito ay isang uri ng relihiyon na nakilala at napalaganap sa India. So, ito ay mula sa Persiang wika ng Hindu na ang ibig sabihin ay India, kung kaya naman ang tiyak at pinakamadaling pagkakaunawa sa relihiyon, ito ay isang relihiyon ng mga individual sa India. So, sa Hinduism, isa sa mga paniniwala ng Hinduismo ay ang paglipat-lipat ng kaluluwa. So, dito sa Buddhism at Hinduism ay may pagkakaiba talaga sila or ang kanilang mga paniniwala. Dahil ang paniniwala ng mga taga-Hindu ay tungkol sa pag-unawa sa Brahma o pagkakaroon mula sa loob ng Atman na halos nangangahulugang sarili or kaluluwa. While the Buddhism, ito naman ay tungkol naman ito sa paghanap ng anatman or hindi kaluluwa o hindi din sarili.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuhu. I am the next reporter, Jamjam Arsam Pikat, and this is my report. Confucianism is an ancient Chinese belief system which focuses on the importance of personal ethics in morality. First, a philosophy and belief system for ancient China. As the other religion, the Confucianism has also a belief, that is, believing ancestor worship and human-centered virtues for living a peaceful life. And also, they have also a golden rule, and that is, do not unto others what you will not want others do unto you. O kung sa Tagalog ay, huwag mong gawin ang isang bagay na ayaw mong gawin sa iyo. The lesson Confucianism, based on Confucian thought, moral character is perfectly taught, continuously taking every opportunity to improve oneself in thought and action. Sa aking kaalaman, dapat kailangan din natin magkaroon ng respeto sa sarili at respeto sa iba upang ang ating pag-improve sa sarili ay mas mapaliwanag at Taoism was began in the year 142 Christ is with the revelation of the Tao to Zhang Daoling or Chang Tao, Taoling by the personage God of the Tao. Taoxing Laojun or Lao Tzu, the highest venerable Lord. Taoism was originated in ancient China and this is also called Taoism. An ancient tradition of philosophy of religious belief attribute of Taoism believes that the self is an extension of the cosmos, not of social relationship. Taoism disavows a hierarchical view of the self, society, or cosmos. Unlike Confucianism, Taoism does not regard the self as an extension of and defined by social relationship. They describe the self as one of the limitless form of Tao. The Tao is commonly regarded as an one nature that is the foundation of all that. It's regarded the fundamental or true nature of the world. The perfect man knows self and selfless person leads to a balanced life in a harmony with nature. There should be unity and harmony among opposing elements, the yin and the yang. The created universe carries the yin and its back, and the yang in front. taught the union of the persuading principles it reaches harmony. And now as we move on, we will go to difference of Western and Eastern thoughts, Eastern versus Western philosophy. As we can see, though Eastern and Western philosophy has a different beliefs. The first is about the reality. Western believes that there is a two reality, and that is, there is a spiritual reality and a physical one. They are separate. While the Eastern was believe in a one reality, and that is that there is one reality. As we move, the second is human life is often valued above other life, and the Eastern was all life may be viewed as sacred. The third paragraph was in the Western is the divine is apart from the material and exists separately from it. While we will see that the Eastern thoughts was in the third paragraph there is difference in Western, and that is the divine is a part of the creation and found everywhere in it. And the fourth paragraph in the Western is the journey of mankind is linear, while in the Eastern was the journey of mankind is a cyclical. The goal of the Western is to deal with the problem of morality and be reunited with God. And the Eastern goal is to deal with the problem of ignorance and achieve enlightenment. And that's all. Thank you.